Hello, a very good morning, everyone. So, today we are going to discuss the Supreme Court. Okay, so unlike the American Constitution, the Indian Constitution has an integrated judicial system. Okay, with Supreme Court at the top and the High Court below it. Okay, the Supreme Court in India was inaugurated on 28 January 1950. Okay, it succeeds the Federal Court of India, that it is established under the Government of India Act of 1935. The Article 124 to 147, which is in the part 5th of the Constitution, it deals with the organization, independence, powers, procedures of the Supreme Court. Okay. Okay, so you have to understand the articles. You have to learn the article, right? Article 124 to 147, part 5th. It deals with the Supreme Court. Okay, the Supreme Court consists of 34 judges, one Chief Justice, and 33 other judges. Okay, the judges are appointed by the President. Okay, and also the Chief Justice is also appointed by the President. Okay. Okay. Now, what is the qualifications that is required to be the judge of the Supreme Court? Okay, he should be a citizen of India. He should have been the judge of a high court. Okay, for the 5 years. He should have been an advocate of the High Court for 10 years, and he should be a distinguished jurist in the opinion of the president. Okay, from the above it is clear that there is no minimum age. Okay, so if someone says that yeah, in 24 age you can't be the Supreme Court, no, there is no minimum age prescribed, but he have to serve in High Court for 5 years, right? Okay, he should have advocated the High Court for 10 years. Okay, and he should be a jurist in the opinion of the president. Okay, now the oath. As I told you, a person appointed as a judge has to make the oath before whom? Before the president. Okay, and these are the 4 points, and that the question came from these 4 points, right? Okay, so you have to understand: to bear the truth and the allegiance to the Constitution of India, to uphold the sovereignty and integrity, to duly and faithfully and to the best of his or her ability, knowledge, and judgment perform the duties of the office to uphold the Constitution and the laws. Okay, so UKPSC will make some changes in the statement, right? To uphold the sovereignty, and they will get the different terms here. Okay, so you have to memorize this 4 statement. Okay, now the tenure. The Constitution, there has no fixed tenure of a judge of the Supreme Court. However, it makes the 3 provision in this regard. What are the 3 provision? He or she should hold the office until he or she attains the age of 65 years. Okay, he or she can resign by writing to the president, and he or she can be removed by the president on the recommendation of the parliament. Okay. Okay, now this removal, the removal of the judges is done by the president on the recommendation of the parliament, and this is addressed or supported by the special majority of each house of the parliament. The special majority means the majority of the total membership of that house, that is not less than the 2/3 of the member of the house present and the voting. Okay, so there is a Judges Inquiry Act of 1968, okay, which regulates the procedure which deal with the removal of the judge by the process of impeachment. Okay, so there is a removal motion which is signed by the 100 members in case of Lok Sabha and 50 members in case of Rajya Sabha, and it is given to the speaker of the chairman. The speaker or chairman, they admit the motion or they refuse to admit it. If it is admitted, the speaker is to constitute a 3-member committee, okay, to investigate into the charges that is done on the particular Supreme Court judges. Okay, and the committee consists of the 3 members. And what are 3 members? The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the High Court, and the distinguished jurist that is appointed by the president. Okay, If the committee finds the judges is guilty or suffering from any incapacity, the House can take up the consideration of the motion, and after the motion is passed by the House by the special majority and addresses president to the and address is done to the president, and president can make an order of removal of the judge. Okay, and you have to understand that no judge or the Supreme Court judge has been so far been convicted. Okay. Okay. I beg your pardon, it was automatically closed. Okay. So guys, just give me a time, right? Okay. So where are we? We are on the power of the Supreme Court. Okay. Okay. So we have understand the removal of the judges. Now the next one is the acting ad hoc on the retired judges. The president can appoint the judge as an acting chief justice. Okay, and it was done only in the case when the seat of the chief justice of India is vacant, or chief justice temporarily absent, or chief justice unable to perform his duties. Okay, so the president, so it can ask who can act as the chief, who can act as the chief justice of India. So a judge of the Supreme Court that is appointed by the president can act as a chief justice of India. Okay, so okay. So these are not so much important, right? These could come in the UPSC, but they did not come in the UKPSC examinations. Okay. Now the powers. Okay. The Constitution has conferred a extensive jurisdiction, the vast power to the Supreme Court. The first power it is given is the original jurisdiction. The Supreme Court can decide the dispute between the different unit of the Indian Federation. Okay. That is happening between the center and the states, center and any state on one side, and one or more other state on the other side, and between two or more state. Okay, so it can decide the dispute between them. That is called the original jurisdictions. Okay. Now another one is a written jurisdiction. The Supreme Court act as a guarantor and the defender of the fundamental right of the citizen. It is empowered to issue the right, that is the habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, quo warranto, and certiorari for the enforcement of the fundamental right of the citizens. We have learned these terms when we are reading the fundamental right. Okay. Okay, you have to also understand that Supreme Court has the original jurisdiction in the sense that an aggrieved citizen can directly go to the Supreme Court, not necessarily by the way of appeal. Okay? So the writ jurisdiction of the Supreme Court is not exclusive. The High Court is empowered to issue the writ for the enforcement of the fundamental right. It means that when the fundamental rights are violated, the aggrieved party has the option of moving either the High Court or the Supreme Court directly. Okay? So if your fundamental right is being violated, you can either go to the High Court, you can either go to the Supreme Court. Both has been given the power to deal with it. Okay? But the Supreme can issue writs only for the enforcement of the fundamental right and not for other purpose. Okay? Supreme Court can only give the rights only for the enforcement of the fundamental right, but the High Court can give the rights only for the, not only for the fundamental right, but also for the other purpose as well. That's your legal rights also, right? Okay. Okay. Now appellate, the next function is appellate jurisdiction. The Supreme Court has not only succeeded the Federal Court of India, but is also replaced the British Privy Council as the highest court of appeal. The Supreme Court is the primary court of appeal and hears the appeal against the judgment of the High Court. It enjoys a wide appellate jurisdiction under the forehead: appeal in constitutional matter, appeal in civil matter, appeal in criminal matter, and appeal on special leave. Okay? So appellate jurisdiction means if your judges, if there is a, if you have to make a judgment against the judges, right, you have to go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the main appellate authority in that particular cases, right? Now another one is the advisory jurisdiction. There is an article called 143. ठीक है, it authorizes the president to seek the opinion of the Supreme Court, ठीक है, when there is any question of law or fact of a public importance, or when any dispute has been arise out of any pre-constitutional treaty, agreement, engagement, or any other similar instrument which is excluded from the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, ठीक है. Another function is the court of record. The Supreme Court has two power. The judgment, proceeding, and act of the Supreme Court are recorded for the perpetual memory and the testimony. The records are admitted to be of evidentiary value and cannot be questioned when produced before any court. It has the power to punish for contempt of itself. In 1991, the Supreme Court has ruled that it has power to punish for contempt not only of itself but also of High Court, subordinate court, and tribunal functioning in the entire country. Okay? That is a court of a record. Another function is the power of a judicial review. Judicial review is what? It is the power of the Supreme Court to examine the legislature or the executive order of both the central and the state government. Okay? If they are found to be violative of the constitution, they can be declared as illegal, unconstitutional, and invalid by the Supreme Court. Okay? So that is the power of a judicial review. Okay? Another one is a review jurisdiction. The Supreme Court has the power to review any judgment pronounced or order made by it. Okay? There is a review petition which has to be filled within the 30 days from the date of the judgment. Okay? So that is sought to be reviewed by the Supreme Court. Okay? Okay. Okay? So these all are the function of the Supreme Court. Okay? Now the last function is the constitutional interpretation. The Supreme Court is the ultimate interpreter of the Constitution. It can give the final version to the spirit and the content of the provision of the Constitution and verbiage used in the Constitution. Okay? So these are the important doctrines, but we do not have to learn these doctrines because we are not doing LLB. Okay? And then, other than there are some other powers that it can decide the dispute regarding the election of the president, the vice president. Okay? It can inquire into the conduct and behavior of the chairman and member of the bodies such as the UPSC, JPSC, and etc. Right? It is authorized to withdraw the cases that is proceeding before the High Court and dispose them by itself. Its law is binding to all the court of India. Its decree or order is enforceable throughout the country, and it has the power of a judicial superintendence. Okay? Okay? So these are the comparison. We do not have to learn this. Okay? We do not have to learn this. We do not have to learn this even either, right? But we have to just understand that this Article 124 to Article 147, which is dealing with the Part 5th of the Constitution, which is dealing with the Supreme Court. Okay? Okay. So this is all about the Supreme Court, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? In next lecture, we will be discussing what? We will be discussing the High Court.